Shalom Aleichem Chevra, I wanted to share with you an unbelievable idea. In last week's parsha, the biggest kasha in the parsha is that in the context of describing all of the chagim, all of a sudden the Torah deviates and starts talking about leket and peah, the mitzvos that the farmer has to give certain gifts to aniyim. And it's not the first time we've heard this. The Torah has said this before. So right after the parsha says, I want you to know that all the chagim are l'dorei seichem, they are forever. Is there a havamina? Is there a thought process they wouldn't be forever? Why should it not be forever? They're not going to be a Beis Hamikdash at some point. But in any case, the Torah says the chagim are forever and restates the mitzvah of matnos aniyim, the matanos you have to give to the poor. So also, why do you have to give gifts to the poor? Well, that's what they're for. You give the corner of your field, whatever you were collecting and you dropped, whatever you forgot, like a chicken peya. These are supposed to remain in your field for the aniyim to feel free to take with a certain degree of dignity. So the words of explanation, why do you have to give like a chicken peya? Le'ani v'lager ta'azoy v'isam. For the poor person, for the convert, you have to abandon them in your field. The words are totally extra. We know that already from the last time we were told the mitzvah that that's what you're supposed to do with them. That's the purpose of the mitzvah. So what's going on? Why the breakup? Why in the middle of all of the presentation of the chagim? We talked about Pesach. We talked about Shavuos. Hold on a second. I wanted to remind you, you have to give gifts to the poor. Okay, we got that. All right, what were we talking about again? Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Right in the middle of all the chagim, it mentions this. It's already been mentioned. And the rationale for what it's for has already been mentioned. And the Torah says it again, smack in the middle of all the chagim. What is going on over here? Why does the Torah do that? A big question. Rashi notices this. And Rashi says, well, first things first, it's because the Torah considers this very, very critical and very important. So the Torah said, lavor lavashne lavin, that you violate a lot of averas if a person doesn't do it properly. That's number one. But number two, Rashi says something very unusual. And he says, it teaches you that whoever gives the matnos aniyim properly, it's as if he has built the Beis Hamikdash and was makriv korbanos. A beautiful idea, but I don't understand where Rashi's coming from. What do you mean? What were we talking about building Beis Hamikdash? We were talking about Aliyah L'Regel. We were talking about the Chagim. So if Rashi would have said, it comes to teach you that whoever gives the gifts to the poor, it's as if he went to the Beis Hamikdash for Pesach Shavuos and Sukkot. Okay, I would have understood that. I don't know what it meant, but I would have understood it. We're not talking about building Beis Hamikdash. What's going on over here? What is going on over here? So that's what Rashi says, that somehow the Torah is trying to teach us that if you give matnos aniyim properly, it's as if you have built the Beis Hamikdash and brought karbanos. That's number one. Number two, Rechaim Kanievsky, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Levracha L'Chayim Haba, writes that if you notice, the break is right after Shavuos. Right after Shavuos, we start talking about the matnos aniyim, and then we get back on track with Rosh Hashanah. Why right after Shavuos? Says Rav Chaim, it's a remez to Rus. A remez to Rus, where do you see that? So listen to this, you have to see it inside. If you take the letter, so the pasuk, the words that are extra again are le'ani v'lager tazoy v'isam. Le'ani v'lager tazoy v'isam. So the word v'lager, if you add the yud from ani, and you add the taf from ta'azoiv, it spells vigioris. Vigioris, and the convert. The convert, of course, is Rus. Says Rechaim, and what's left from the word ta'azoiv? The letters boyaz. Boyaz, that's who gave all of these gifts to Rus. And he doesn't say this, but I would add, but you took the yud from ani, what's left from the word lit ani? The osios noal, nun, ayin, lamed. If you learn Megillas Rus, you know that a noal, a shoe, plays a very important role in Megillas Rus. And then, says Rechaim, the gematria of those extra words, la'ani v'lager ta'azoy v'isam, is 1,319, which is the gematria of Zu Naomi v'Rus hamoyavia kalasa. This is Naomi and Rus, the Moabite, her daughter-in-law. Interesting. But what's the point? Why do we need such a cute remez over here? What's it? All right, it's cute. It's cute. It's a hint of Rus. And the fact that we read it on Shavuos. So listen to this. This puts it all together. Rav Shimon Schwab, in his Sefer Mayan, Beis HaShoeva, so he asks, what chag is between Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah? There is one. It's called Tisha B'Av. The Navi Zechariah tells us that Tisha B'Av is a tragic day, but it will ultimately be a moyed. It will be a celebratory day. Says Roshab, because the Batei Mikdash, both the first and second Beis Hamikdash, were destroyed on Tisha B'Av, and he writes that the third Beis Hamikdash is going to be built on Tisha B'Av. That means ultimately that there's going to be a Chag, which is right here, What hints to that Chag that's in between Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah? Matnos Aniyim. Why should Matnos Aniyim hint to Tisha B'Av? So what makes Tisha B'Av? What makes it become a holiday is that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt. Who's going to build that Beis Hamikdash? The Mashiach. Mashiach. Where does Mashiach come from? Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben David. David HaMelech. Where does David HaMelech come from? Boaz's careful observance of Matnos Aniyim. Because Boaz was so careful with Leket Shikran Peah, Rus HaMoaviyah, she had a place to go, she had a place to collect, and she met Boaz. And the rest is history. They had David HaMelech. So what built the Beis HaMikdash? Someone who was very, very careful, as Rashi said, about Matnos Aniyim. So what leads to the Binyan Habayis Mashiach ben David? What made that possible? The proper observance of the Matnos Aniyim by Boaz. So the pasuk is actually being merames to this idea of the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, and that's why it's a remez to Rus and to Boaz and to the Noah, and that's exactly what Rashi was foreshadowing. To finish it up, Shab adds one more thing. If you're familiar with the last Mishnah in Tainus, so it says something striking. There were never happier, greater days on the Jewish calendar than Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av. Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av. What happened Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av? That the single girls who needed a shidduch, they would borrow these white dresses from each other. They would go out into the vineyards, and they would say, if they were beautiful, you need a beautiful wife. If they had good lineage, they would say, listen, the most important thing is good lineage, good money. The most important thing is money. And they would each have their shidduch resume with why they should be the ones that the young men should select. There were never happier days. Says Rashab, it's a little unusual. Why weren't Chazal concerned for the Yetzer Hara? So he says, okay, it's on Yom Kippur. If this happened, we would understand. We would say Yom Kippur is a day where there isn't a Yetzer Hara. But what about Tu B'Av? Why should this happen? And what is the significance of Tu B'Av? Says Rashab, when the Beis HaMikdash is built, we call that a Chanukah Sabayis. It's a celebration of the inauguration of the Beis HaMikdash. So Binyan Bayis Shlishi, as he said, is going to be on Tisha B'Av. How many days do you celebrate the Binyan HaBayis? So the very beginning by the Mishkan, we had Shivas Yimei HaMiluim. There were 7 days of celebration. Times of Shlomo HaMelech, there were 7 days of celebration. Lasid Lavo, the third Beis HaMikdash, will be 7 days of celebration. If the celebration begins on the day of the construction, on Tisha B'Av, then the last day of the celebration, the culmination of the celebration of the Binyan Bayis Shlishi will be on Tu B'Av, on the 15th of Av, 9 plus 7, Tu B'Av. The last day is going to be Tu B'Av. So the ultimate celebration of Binyan Habayis, it culminates with Tu B'Av, which of course is going to represent what's going to happen in the times of the third Beis HaMikdash, that there won't be a Yetzer Hara. If there won't be a Yetzer Hara, then that is a day that makes sense that we aren't going to worry about the Yetzer Hara. It represents that there isn't a Yetzer Hara. So then it makes sense that would be the day, even on Tu B'Av, that the girls should be dancing and should be presenting themselves to the boys, and we're not concerned for the Yetzer Hara. And that's how the Mishnah ends. The Mishnah ends with a pasuk, Tzena ure'ena benos Tzion b'melech Shlomo. Go out and see, daughters of Zion, the King Shlomo. Here it doesn't refer to Shlomo HaMelech. It refers to HaMelech Shalom Shalo, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the King of all peace. Be'atara sha'ajal le'imoi, the crown that his mother crowned him, b'yom chasun asoi, b'yom simchas liboy, on the day of his wedding and on the day of the rejoicing of his heart. Says the Mishnah, what is it referred to? That there's a day of Hashem's rejoicing and a day of the simcha of his heart. The day of Hashem's rejoicing, that refers to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a day that is Matan Torah. Yom Kippur, why is it Matan Torah? Because the second luchos were given on Yom Kippurim. And Yom Simchas Liboy. So according to this, Yom Simchas Liboy should have been Tu B'Av. That's what the pasuk is supposed to be referencing. But instead, the pasuk says that Yom Simchas Liboy Zu Binyan Beis HaMikdash. That's the day of the building of the Beis Hamikdash. That's the Simchas Libo. That's the rejoicing of the heart of a Kadosh Baruch Hu with Binyan Beis Hamikdash. What does it have to do with Tu B'Av? Says Rosh Schwab, now we understand. The Yom Simchas Libo refers to Tu B'Av because that's the culmination of Simchas Libo of a Kadosh Baruch Hu with the Binyan Beis Hamikdash. That is Tu B'Av. It is Tu B'Av. It's just that what Tu B'Av represents, what Tu B'Av is about, is the ultimate Geula, the ultimate expression of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the world, the ultimate Simchas Libo of a Kadosh Baruch Hu with the Binyan Bayis Shlishi, and the last day of the celebration of the Binyan Bayis Shlishi, which is Tu B'Av. So it's unbelievable. So it comes out that what the Torah is saying is all of these Chagim are forever. Who says they shouldn't be forever? They're not going to be. Maybe they won't be forever. It's not going to be a Beis Hamikdash forever. No, but the Chagim are forever. The Chagim are forever. And by the way, don't forget about Leket Shikhan Peah. What's the connection? Because that's going to get you back. That's going to get you back to the Beis Hamikdash. Because whoever observes Leket Shikhan Peah, so it's considered by the Torah that person has built the Beis Hamikdash and been makriv of the karbanos. Shayches, what's it all about? Says Rashi. It's about Binyan Beis Hamikdash. Says Rav Chaim that it's a remez to Rus. Says Rav Shimon Schwab that it's a remez to the whole Chag that's missing from the Torah. Why is there a Chag missing from the Torah? Because Baruch Hu can't tell us yet. That's hidden for the future. But it's a reference to Tisha B'Av, and that it means on Tisha B'Av is going to be the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, and then in the future is going to be another Chag, and that's why it's exactly there between Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah. So how does it come about? Through a careful observance of Leket Shikhan Peah is what allows the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, and that's the Remes to Rus, and that's the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, and that's exactly the hint that's going on in the Torah right in that spot. Wow, wow, wow. Have a great day, everybody.